Hi everybody, welcome to A-Level Media Studies. A brief introduction to the subject that you've chosen to study in the sixth form with us at Taveram. So, as you'll know, media studies is made up of loads of different types of texts, some of which you can see on the screen in front of you now. These range from lots of different types of media and also texts produced at different times. So we've got some historical texts and some modern texts. The exam board sets these as what we call set texts, which means that we have to learn them like you might learn a poem or a set of poems for literature, or that you might learn some key quotations from a novel in your English lessons. So this is an example of the texts that you'll be studying over the next 2 years as you do the course. As you'll see, there are newspapers, magazines, there are some film texts, we've got television texts, we have online texts, so the picture of Zoella in the middle, for example, and Attitude, which you can see underneath this image of Beyonce. That's also another online text that we study. Music videos come up as well. Video games, obviously, you've probably noticed the Assassin's Creed in the corner, and also we look at advertising and marketing, which is why you can see the Kiss of the Vampire film poster, you can see an advert for Tide, and also the WaterAid logo. The course, or the A-level course, is organised into 3 different sections, and we call those components. Component 1 and 2 are basically exam papers, and component 3 is the equivalent of your coursework, which is now referred to as non-exam assessment. So across year 12 in particular, we will study text from both component 1 and component 2, and we will make a start in the summer term on your component 3 practical work. So we don't study them one at a time, we study bits of each of the components as we progress. The first exam is titled Media Products, Industries and Audiences. It's the shorter of our 2 exams, only by a little, and that's worth 35% of our A-level. That is where we're going to be writing about media language and representation, and also industries and audiences. During this exam, we have some of our set texts, such as advertising and marketing, newspaper, video games, radio. However, we also have to be prepared to answer on unseen texts. So we usually start that exam with an audiovisual extract that you get played, that you then take some notes on, and you answer questions on that extract in the exam. Component 2 is made up of a 2 hours and 30-minute exam, and that's also worth 35% of the whole A-level, and that's divided into 3 sections, and as it says in the title, media forms and products in depth, and these set texts really become bigger case studies, so we need to learn a variety of different things about these texts. So we have our television texts in section A, and we have 2 texts for each section. We have magazine, mainstream and alternative in section B, and then we have our online media texts in section C. And the bit most people are usually excited about is your component 3, that's your cross-media production. So that's worth 30% of the overall A-level, and that is the equivalent of your coursework. So you work individually, so that means on your own, to create a production. It says cross-media, which means that you have to produce things across 2 different media forms. Now, the exam board, which is Educast, set us briefs each year, so we don't see those until just before you start working on your component 3, and you'll make a choice about what it is that you might produce. Okay, now there's always a choice of television, there's always a choice of film, there's always a choice of magazine, and there's also a choice for music as well. So here's a little look at some of the things that you'll be covering in Year 12 with me. So for the purpose of this presentation, I'm Teacher 1. We'll always start with an introduction to media language and representation, mainly because the vast majority of you will not have studied any media before. So we need to give you the tools and the terminology that you need to be able to analyse these texts in depth. Okay, from there we'll head into the realms of advertising and marketing with our set texts that you can see. We've got Tide, Kiss of the Vampire and WaterAid. Alongside that, then we'll pick up our music video, one of our music video products, which is Formation by Beyonce. Then we will move on to television, and we'll make a start on our contemporary television example, which is Humans. And then we'll have a little go at the online media section. We'll start looking at the vlogs part of that. And then in the summer term, we make a start on your non-exam assessment. So then with Teacher 2, who from September will be Mr. Chapman, you will also have an introductory topic at the beginning, but while we're looking at media, language and representation, you will be looking at audience and industry, okay? And then it may look like there's some repetition because you will be looking at your Tide, your Kiss of the Vampire and your Water Aid texts, but you'll be looking at them from an audience and industry perspective, whereas with me, you'll be looking at them from a media, language and representation perspective. From there, you'll progress on to film and look at both of your film texts, which is I, Daniel Blake and Black Panther. Then you will move on to music video and you will look at the second video alongside doing Formation with me. You'll be looking at Riptide with Mr. Chapman. Then you will start looking at your magazine text, The Big Issue, okay, and your online magazine, which is Attitude. And then at the same time that you begin your NEA with me, you'll be doing that with Teacher 2 as well. So hopefully you've been getting on okay with the summer tasks that you've been set. Obviously we gave you a lot more than we normally would given the current circumstances. So you had a section where you were looking at some of your set products, so hopefully you've had the chance to watch the film texts and do some activities on those. You've then been doing some work on newspapers, which obviously are in our curriculum, but they don't come in till the beginning of year 13, but it's always good to keep up to date with what's going on in the press. So we're thinking then about Viewpoints, which will help you explore the concept of representation. And then your fourth summer task was to have a go at something practical. So I set you a kind of fake brief for you to think about how you might respond to that and do some kind of design work so that you can start to be thinking creatively. And just in case that wasn't enough, your second set of activities were based around a media magazine article, and there were some things for you to think about, and that was specifically relating to music video and the history of British music videos in particular. And then in case you were wondering what else you could be doing to help you prepare for the course, one big piece of advice I would give you is to buy a ring binder and set of dividers. A lever arch file, so the one in the picture there, would be preferable because you will be making and collecting lots of notes. There'll be lots of sheets, lots of printouts, and you need to keep those really organised from the start. Okay, and finally is thinking about wider reading. My main advice would be to just stay up to date with news, issues and debates about things that are happening in the media. The Guardian newspaper has its own kind of media section where there are stories, reports, reviews of things, and lots of other newspapers do the same thing. There's an organisation called FutureLearn who run online courses, and there are some in the creative arts and media section that might be worth having a look if you've run out of things to do. Other advice I could give you in preparation for your practical work is watching some tutorials on how to use the technology that you already have, i.e. your phones, to take really good quality images and film so that you can be one step ahead when we do our practical work throughout the course. Any questions, drop me an email. My email address is at the bottom there. Really sorry not to be meeting you properly this week as planned, but really looking forward to meeting you all in September. Thank you.